All right. We're a lot of people here today, but we're also joined by, from the UK, Oliver Harper, known from YouTube, and where he does sort of podcasts and is it mini documentaries? Is that what you call them?
Yes, I would say they are, yeah. They're retrospective reviews, so it's a mini documentary with a review mixed in.
Yeah, and that's sort of been your deal for a few years now, hasn't it?
Well, it has, yes. I started doing them in late 2011. It's only I only set out to do like one review, and then it kind of escalated from there. So the first review was Superman 4, and then some of my friends really enjoyed it, and then said, we'll do another one. So I did roughly about every week, maybe every fortnight, I did a new review, and then kind of my audience got bigger and bigger, and then it became more of a sort of a hobby. It became more of a full-time thing.
I sort of get the sense that it's funny that you started with Superman, because that's sort of been a thing that you grew up with, and it's sort of been a thing that's been with you your whole life.
Well, yeah, it was, because, I was born in the 80s, but I didn't get to see the films. I was born in 1982, so I didn't get into Superman until maybe 89, 1990. At that point, the four Christopher Reeve films had been and gone. But they were very much in the UK. Superman was part of the Christmas period celebration or Easter. They were always on TV.
Yeah.
So that was something I always just grew up on. Obviously, you had other things like Indiana Jones and Star Wars and Batman, but I think Christopher Reeve and seeing his performance was just like mesmerizing to me as a kid.
Yeah.
And so when it came to reviewing Superman 4, which was the first review I did, it was like it's not a very good movie. It's an absolute mess. But it was there were kind of little nuggets of good stuff in it. So I thought, well, I might as well kind of do that and see where it goes. But the weird thing is, like, when I started doing these YouTube reviews, like, a lot of the films I really enjoyed, I did first. But then as I got better, as I progressed, I look back on my old stuff and go, oh, they're a bit crap. So I've gone back to stuff and like remastered them like George Lucas style, and kind of try to do a redux and improve them. So I try not to do that too much, because you just end up not providing people with something new. You just kind of giving them something they've already kind of heard before, in my opinion, but it's presented better. But yeah, a weird thing.
It's cool. Well, I think they used to show the Superman movies a lot here too in the 80s and 90s, didn't they?
Yeah.
On Norwegian TV, because I remember, especially at Christmas, I think they normally showed at least Superman 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm old enough to remember that.
No,
No, me neither.
No, definitely
yeah,
not
we're
you.
old.
Yeah.
But the Superman films are still on TV. I mean, they still show them, once a year roughly. But with so many channels now, you'll always find it somewhere.
I bet it's playing somewhere now.
Yeah.
I think I remember seeing it once with my dad, but that's the only time I ever remember seeing Superman.
You haven't seen it more than one time?
I've seen the one where he spins the other way around the
that's Superman
globe.
the movie, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I've seen. That's the only memory I have of Superman.
Wow, okay, we have to correct that.
Yeah, I remember seeing
Do we?
seeing Superman 3 on TV with my parents as a kid, and I don't remember much of the movie, but it was something about somebody getting electrocuted in a horrific way.
Yeah.
And I remember freaking out to such a degree that my dad had to almost hold me. I was maybe like 6 at the time.
That was
I had nightmares for weeks.
During the 80s, wasn't there? Because Superman 3 had that woman gets sucked into the computer.
Yeah.
And that is Metal Vera, they call it.
That's what it was, yes.
You had things like, Dark Crystal with the Skeksis, but there's loads of kind of things growing up you saw which terrified you. So you had Superman 3, Never Ending Story. Like,
yes.
Dark Crystal.
Dark Crystal terrifies me.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you tend to cover stuff from the 80s and 90s mostly, right?
Well, yeah, because, the weird thing is people message me all the time and say, "Oh, can you review, a movie from last year?" I'm like, well, you can't really discuss a film from last year in retrospect,
No.
in retrospective form. So it just seems a bit odd because, and also it's still in the public's consciousness. They're still fully aware of it. So if you pick something from 20 years ago that people grew up on, or maybe have forgotten about, you can kind of refreshen their memory or kind of get them to revisit old classics, and it's more fun. To me, it's something of my childhood, and I mean now I've started reviewing films a bit more kind of late 90s and early 2000s, but I try to stick to the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
But I should really do more stuff in like the early 70s and stuff, but it's just kind of trying to find the time. But people, think suddenly I'm going to quit like next month because they just bombard me with so many requests. I'm like, I haven't announced I'm retiring, so if you want to see a film from the 70s or something, it will happen later down the line.
Yeah. How like what's the process when you do a retrospective? How do you gather the material that you need for the video, and how do you do the research?
Well, it depends what film I'm covering. If, for example, you find a movie which has no documentary, no commentary available for it, then you've got to do a lot more digging. You have to, I often go through old Starlog magazines.
Oh, yeah.
I go through those and try and find some interviews. And sometimes you can find an interview with someone who you may not think is obvious, like, for example, the star or director. You can find someone like the producer who's talked about the movie. So then you can kind of work your way from there and try and find some information. But sometimes where I don't have enough information, I will just mostly inject a lot of my opinion instead of just like trivia. But I just did Alien 3. So I'm working on Alien 3 at the moment and just recorded the review, which took me like an hour and a half.
Wow.
It took forever. So it's probably one of my longest reviews, I think it's going to be.
Wow.
But because the film comes with a 3-hour documentary, but also I use that as a lot of reference, and I listen to the commentary, so I kind of pick the bits I think the viewer will find interesting, because you can't if you just end up regurgitating what's been given to you, people won't find it very new and enjoyable. So you have to, I kind of cherry pick what I think, that they'll find this information about the visual effects, informative and stuff like that. So I start with that and then kind of work my way on, and try and inject more of my opinion instead of just discussing the movie's kind of backdrop, which is basically, David Fincher arguing with Fox and Vincent Ward's original concept with the wooden planet.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff they were planning to do with that movie.
I think it would have been brilliant if it was a wooden planet.
Yeah,
filled with monks, it would have been certainly different, but very unique.
Because what Alien 3 ended up as is like they had this prison set or whatever, and it's like, we can put an Alien movie in here or something.
Well, it was basically like they said, instead of having a wooden planet, why don't you just have a prison colony, a prison facility? So, and Vincent Ward didn't want to do that, but that's what it eventually became, because all the previous scripts had this kind of prison idea, but also I think one point it's going to be set on Earth. They had like Ripley in a coma throughout the entire movie, and it was all about Hicks. I think that was the first script, I think, by William Gibson. But that was because the weird thing is, even though the Alien films are fondly remembered because of Sigourney Weaver, a lot of the female audiences weren't actually going to see the films. It's all about, so they thought, well, by the third movie we'll just have a male lead, which will be Hicks. But then Fox were like, no, you've got to have Sigourney Weaver. So bankability.
Well, that's one good decision they made then, at least.
Well, William Gibson, as in Neuromancer.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, wow. Cool. Didn't know that. That's awesome.
But yeah, obviously the availability of like easily obtainable HD material from Blu-rays and stuff, that's got to be helpful.
Oh, definitely. I mean, sometimes it's more challenging than others, because if you want something that's quite niche from the 80s that kind of bombed.
Yeah.
And for example, like Buckaroo Banzai, it's not something. Well, I do want to review it, but it's like, I think I got a German Blu-ray of it like 6 months ago. Then Arrow Films released their version like 6 months later. I'm like, oh, for God's sake! So the weird thing is there's no soundtrack release for Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh wow!
So, and when you watch the film, when you ever get the chance, there's hardly any music in it.
Huh.
And with all my reviews, I like to have the score in the background.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of, it helps with when you kind of, delivering the voiceover and it helps kind of visuals. But Buckaroo Banzai has nothing. So I was like, a bit reluctant to do it because I wouldn't give the viewer something, that was of quality of the previous review. So, but it can be difficult finding, particular HD footage. Like the people want to see me review The Abyss, but there's no HD Blu-ray, but there is an HD TV copy online somewhere.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I think that's going to be released on Blu-ray very soon.
Yeah, I think next year, isn't it? Something like
Cool.
that.
I can check quick.
Also, they do you think you'll do Transformers the movie when that comes out on Blu-ray?
Well, I've already reviewed Transformers.
Oh yeah,
I?
that's right, you did.
Yeah,
but
there you go.
it's been 4K remastered now.
Oh, is it now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But they always, that's the thing about 4K. It's great. It's great knowing that your favourite film's been, transferred at 4K, but you play it, it's all downscaled to 2K.
Yeah, obviously.
Blu-ray, so it's like you don't really see the benefits. But I do kind of want to review Michael Bay's first Transformers movie, just to sort of, because I kind of like that movie. I don't hate it. The sequels just became like a joke.
The first one it's not bad.
Yeah, the first one's kind of like it's fine. It's fine with me. It's not like insulting or it didn't like ruin my childhood. Or whatever.
No.
So it was fun.
And you obviously do a lot of podcasts on YouTube with your two friends, Richard and Duncan.
Yes, Duncan and Richard enjoyed talking rubbish for 2 hours.
Yeah,
yes, it's always fun. But yeah, I've been doing that. I started off with Richard, and for about 2 years, then I met Duncan. Like I think Duncan had contacted me, I think, because he had worked on Skyfall, and he kind of lived nearby.
Oh yeah, we should mention that Duncan Casey is an actor and he's been in movies.
Yes, that's right. That's correct. Yeah, but he's first kind of started out doing a lot of background roles, in a lot of big films, and he had like small talking parts in Skyfall and what's that Tom Cruise film where he's that sci-fi one he did recently?
Edge of
Tomorrow. Yeah, he had a part in that as well, but they all got cut out. So it's a bit annoying for him, obviously.
Yeah.
So, but he's still kind of trying to find his feet and find that big role.
Yeah.
But because he'd been on Skyfall and he kind of wanted to do a commentary with me, and I said that'd be great, and because I met up with him and had a few drinks, and he had a lot to say, had a good voice, so. It helps when it comes to doing commentaries. So so at that point we became good friends and started doing them on a kind of weekly basis, really.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. I mean, I've really enjoyed your commentaries, and
those podcasts are hilarious. I listened to the Suicide Squad one.
Oh God! Yeah.
And and I was just on the floor laughing because it was hilarious. And I listened to it because I haven't seen the movie. And I was just absorbing all kinds of commentaries and podcasts from people that I kind of trust and that have kind of similar taste in movies like me to determine if I should spend money on seeing it or not.
Sure.
So it was just hilarious to listen to your spoiler cast there. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that movie
we came back from seeing that and we had it was so late at night. We hadn't eaten, so we're just like completely just like annoyed by the movie.
Oh yeah,
as well. And in a hot room, like sweating because it was summertime. So yeah, we weren't particularly happy.
Nope.
No. But yeah, you do commentaries, and reviews with them. Obviously, I particularly enjoy the Duncan's impressions of like Pierce Brosnan and stuff like that. It always cracks me up.
Oh, Pierce, yeah. He's because Duncan is like a walking jukebox in voices, really, which is brilliant. but you know, because he can do obviously Pierce Brosnan. I love his Michael Caine.
Yeah, Michael Caine is great.
That's just brilliant. But you know, he likes doing the voices, but sometimes people expect him to do them all the time.
Yeah,
like they're just for the voices, which is kind of like for him, it's like you should be kind of here for what we got to say. Not just,
of course.
not just the comedy, but it's fun to inject that because sometimes we go too far with a comedy and people get really annoyed. So it's not for everyone. So because we did Highlander recently, and I love the film, but Duncan and Richard weren't keen on it. They hadn't grown up with it. They loved how it was made, but it was kind of a lot of they thought the plot was silly, so they kind of went a bit out of control, and some of the hardcore fans weren't too impressed.
Yeah, but obviously, I mean, it has to be the right moment to inject some kind of thing like that to make it funny.
Yeah, it does. It has to be the right time, and because essentially when you've got 3 people now, you've got like 5 people. You know, you've got to keep things in check and in control. Because you're essentially moderating, aren't you? So, you know, someone's going out of control or just like, I don't know, talking about the same subject for too long, then you've got to put your foot down. So, you know, it's my responsibility to sort of, you know, keep those guys from not going out of control because when it's just me and Duncan, it's fine, and just me and Richard, it's fine. But when you put Richard and Duncan together, it's like putting, you know, gasoline on a fire. Control, which I love. Yeah. But it's like giving kids too much sugar. They just go bonkers. Because when we're not recording, they're still mad. They're still, you know, doing stuff. So it's
I actually discovered your channel a little over a year ago. I think it was like April or May 2015. And the first video I saw was when you did the commentary of Roger Corman's Fantastic Four.
Oh God, yeah.
And that was actually the first.
That's better than the new film.
It is, yeah. I can't believe it's actually better than. It's probably the best Fantastic Four movie, which is it's ridiculous that they haven't made a good one.
Yeah, I think it's just Fox. I don't know what they're doing with it, are they?
Yeah.
It's that height. I think it's some similar production problems as with like Alien 3. You know, with Fantastic Four, it's like, you know, Fox taking control of it and stopping the director having his vision, you know. So
yeah. I mean that latest one was nearly unwatchable.
Yeah, it was bad, but actually it had a good score though. I like the soundtrack.
Yeah,
that was a good thing.
It did have a good score. Actually, Philip Glass did some of the music for that.
Did he?
It was Marco Beltrami and Philip Glass.
Marco Beltrami, God, he's Mr. Inconsistent. He is.
He is very.
Some of his scores are brilliant. Some are just like absolute rubbish. I'm like, how is this happening? You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like his Scream scores and stuff. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're also into film music a little bit.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was. Film music's always been an important part. I mean, the film score, a good theme and good, like, you know, orchestral kind of motifs and action sequences or emotional parts are always key to making a movie really good. And when you have a film with a really drab soundtrack or something the music feels like wallpaper, it's just there to serve the soundtrack. It just needs to be there. Drive me nuts because there's so many scores today that just very much copy and paste the same kind of rhythms and sounds you've heard.
Yeah.
You know, on the last movie, the one before that, it's always the same sound. It's always like that thing. It just drives me potty. But yeah, because as a kid, you know, watching Star Wars, Superman, John Williams scores and Jerry Goldsmith, I just fell in love with that music, and I found myself listening to film music more than kind of like contemporary pop music of the time.
Yeah,
which is weird, you know. And I didn't have the soundtrack, so I end up as a kid getting my tape recorder and putting it near the TV and pressing play. Like a loser. Like,
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, I've done that too.
I used to do it with video game music, like play track 1 and then put the tape player next to the Mega Drive or something.
Yeah. I think a couple of us are guilty of that too. So.
Yep.
I actually, yeah.
And what I used to do, I was in the school band, so I played the cornet. What I used to do is I'd sit down with my keyboard, work out all the notes of, say, Lord of the Rings, and then I'd play it on my cornet afterwards.
Okay.
So that's what I used to sit and do, just write music.
Good idea.
Nice.
Excellent.
But when it comes to doing these retrospectives, it must take loads of time per video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. I mean, it would take takes about 2 or 3 days just to create the kind of trailer at the beginning.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little bit quicker, depending on, if sometimes when you've got a film with great expository dialogue, it makes it so easy to make a trailer. You can just drop in scenes over the top and make something out of it. But usually I spend about 4 or 5 days kind of writing and stuff, and then do the end montage as well. Then another couple of days kind of editing the video together, because it's editing. Like say for example, I've recorded the voiceover, I put that in. It usually takes about 2 days to put all the visuals in. So I've already done the opening and end montage already in advance, because they're the most difficult part, because you've got to edit something, precisely and make it work. So yeah, it usually takes about 2 weeks, sometimes a little bit longer. I mean, actually, I have found it more difficult over the years to do them within a decent amount of turnaround time, because they've got longer. So if you're doing reviews which are 40 minutes long, and suddenly the next one's like 15 minutes long, people are like, "What? The quality's dropped." They'll complain. They'll complain about anything. So it takes a little bit longer now. But,
But do you find is it basically something you do full time now, or?
It is, yes, it is. Thankfully, it helps the kind of YouTube ad revenue and stuff, and Patreon kind of help me continue, and I don't have to kind of think, oh God, I've got to go get a job. A job within the space of a month or something, because when you talk about money and stuff and doing stuff full time with YouTube, as soon as you're kind of making a little bit of money, you're kind of seen as the bad guy.
That's ridiculous.
It's like, people are just punished for having, a little bit of success, maybe. What I've done is I'm not considering myself a success, but it's just like, I'm kind of okay to kind of live, so I'm okay at this point, but I am focusing on it now full time. So I'm always working, really, because I don't end up doing 40 hours a week. I end up doing more than that, maybe 60 or 70. Mm-hmm. So you're constantly working in the evening or in the morning or whatever. It's always I'm never doing a 9 till 5 thing.
Yeah.
So you kind of, because you're essentially kind of freelance. You're independent. So you're not like, I don't have a boss breathing down my neck, but it's I have to kind of provide enough content to keep the audience tuned in, because if you don't make anything, as they always say on YouTube, if you don't make anything for 2 weeks, your channel's officially dead, which is silly.
Yeah, that's a bit silly, but
I do think that's something a lot of people don't realise, that how much work goes behind making stuff and keeping things up regularly for the viewers, and a lot of people would sort of snark a bit at you because you make money off it, but they just don't realise the work behind it.
No, they don't. I think 90% of the audience understand that that it takes time to make the videos, but there's always a percentage that think it's easy. But if you kind of challenge them on that and say, "Go make your own one," they're like, "Oh no, I can't." Yeah. So you have these people some people who don't realise the time it takes, so they just bombard you with constant requests, and you say, "I'm sorry, I don't have the time. It's not on my list at the moment." So I have to say to people, like, I'm not taking requests at the moment because I just had too much on my slate. And most people understand, but there's always a majority that do not. So they continue to bombard me with requests and stuff. So but I try to listen to everyone. I try to kind of honour, if it's someone who I talk to on a regular basis, or I see them pop up a lot, they're commenting. I'm like, I will communicate with them and kind of honour their request over time. But it's just someone I've never interacted with before just kind of bombarded me with stuff. I'm like, no, I'm not I'm not a jukebox, as it were.
But
I mean, you're only one guy, so
I'm not
it's
exactly,
like-
as it were. So
you also collect laser discs, right?
I do, yes. I am retro.
Awesome.
No, this is I started collecting laser discs in '98. I think it was when DVD was becoming kind of popular. I think it just been introduced in the UK. Maybe around '97 it came out, but the DVD players were so expensive. It's like £500 or whatever.
Yeah, that's what
So
I paid for my
that.
first one.
Oh, yeah. So I couldn't afford that. I was only in '98. I was probably about 16. So it was when I went to sixth form college and studying, and I started studying media and stuff. And I thought, I'll try and look into DVD. And obviously, I couldn't afford it. And then the other option was Laserdisc. Now, at the time, Laserdisc had all my favourite films in widescreen and stuff. And and many VHS tapes didn't have widescreen transfers. Some did, but not that many. The majority was very small. So I saw a Laserdisc player for like £100 with like 12 discs, whatever, and I thought, I'll have that. And then, not seeing DVD at the time on a regular basis, watching Laserdisc and hearing the sound, it was amazing. And then all your friends were like, seeing the great covers they have and the big gatefold kind of sleeves, it all looked very cool. So I started just picking up Laserdisc because everyone was selling them off because everyone had jumped to DVD because Laserdisc was owned by people who had lots of money. Because players weren't cheap. It will cost you £50 for a film, maybe more. A box set will cost you over £100. The Star Wars Definitive Collection, which had the original trilogy, cost $250 when it came out.
Christ.
Like, who had that money? It's like people who were wealthy, rich people,
Yeah.
and all people had more money than sense. So
Yeah.
So I started getting Laserdiscs on the cheap, and they've always kind of been cheap. They still are. I mean, if you're careful on what you buy, and some people charge a fortune just for a disc which isn't worth anything. People think because it's a Laserdisc, it's suddenly rare. It's like no, it's. So Laserdisc it's nowhere near as good as Blu-ray. I mean, it can match DVD in some cases, but you need a good video scaler, you need a good TV, you need a good Laserdisc player. It varies in quality. You can buy a £50 DVD player and buy a £200 one and won't see the difference in quality.
Yeah.
Payback. But Laserdisc, from like a £200 to a £1,000 one, you will see a big difference. So
yeah, well, it's partly analog format, isn't it? So it's
it's analog picture with digital sound. So it's kind of transferred to the disc like analog medium. Yeah,
it's it's a really weird format, but I do it's fascinating.
If you see a player going for €50 or whatever, or €100 in a second-hand shop, get it. See it cheap, have it.
It's cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Oliver, for joining us here and having a chat about your work on making people remember movies. I guess from olden
doing
days.
important work.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
no problem. It's been a pleasure talking to you all.
It's been great.
Your YouTube channel is what's the easiest way to find you?
Well, if you just put Oliver Harper into YouTube, because my ULR is all like a bunch of different letters and stuff. It's like YouTube's kind of creates ULR for me, which I did try to change, but it didn't seem to work. So, but you could put Oliver's-retrospectives.com. That's the website I have. So you can find it that way.
And you're also on Patreon, right? So that's
I am indeed. Yes, it's patreon.com/Oliver Harper.
easy to remember.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. Yeah.